Hello, hello everyone. Amy R here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space and another Stamptember exclusive collaboration video throughout the month of September. Simon Says Stamp has Stamptember, the biggest stamping party of the year. They have partnered with a ton of crafty brands to release limited edition exclusive sets that are one and done. When they sell out, they are not restocked. However, all the brands featured have wonderful product lines, and I will have a link to today's feature, which is with Avery Elle. And I'll have a link to the collab set, I'll have a link to the Avery Elle product line, and then of course I'll have a list and link to everything I used to make today's card. That will all be in the description box below the video. My links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links, end up placing an order, I get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. It is what helps pay the bills and keeps the channel going. We're going to do some easy marker coloring, easy ink blending, and then I use my Glimmer hot foil machine on acetate. I've actually done it before, but not with this acetate, and I create kind of a... It'll just be easier to show you guys how I do it in the video. So, keep watching. I'll show you how I made this card. So this collaboration set with Avery Elle is called Cozy Cabin. And I have some Neenah Desert Storm cardstock that I put into my MISTI. And I'm going to stamp the cabin image and then a couple of the trees. And I'm going to stamp these with Simon's Intense Black ink, which is an alcohol marker friendly ink. So I'll stamp it with those. I'm going to ink up, stamp them twice, get a good crisp image. And then off camera, I ended up stamping the trees another time so that I had extra trees. Because I'm gonna build a little scene with these. So once I get these stamped, I am going to color these in with my Olo markers. You can use any alcohol markers for this. Any coloring method, really. The only time consuming part was coloring around these little lights. That's it. Although I honestly thought, but it would have taken longer. I was like, ooh, if you have something like Nouveau drops, you know, you could just color right over them and then just use something like that and just fill in those areas. That would actually look really cute, but I just colored around them. It's all good. And yeah, I'm using my Olo markers. I have done many videos coloring with them. I have a playlist that I will have linked at the end of the video. The first video or two, at least the first one, it was a live stream I did, like swatching them, you know, my first impressions, that sort of a thing. And just a reminder, these markers come with connectors. They're not meant to be used like this. Like I'm using them as half markers for now. I will eventually connect them, but for now, this is just what works for me. This way I can see all the colors at a glance. That's why I haven't connected them. So, anywho, I'm doing my thing, coloring in this little cabin. I really love not just Olo markers on craft cardstock, like any alcohol markers. I just love the look of it. I don't know what it is. I just love it. So I went again, very traditional colors. I think I've fully lost my mind at this point, but I was thinking like, you know, a cute A-frame cabin out in the woods, covered in snow with, you know, traditional colored Christmas lights. I did 2 different green combos for the trees, by the way. Just, you know, mix it up a little bit. Like I said, this was very just basic, very simple, very basic coloring. But mixed up the green combos just to give it that little extra something. And then for the white areas, which, you know, all that snow on there, on the little windowsills, for that, I just use a white color pencil, like a Prismacolor pencil. I've talked about this a lot over the years. I don't do like full-on coloring with color pencils anymore. It really, really like aggravates my hand issues because of the pressure. But doing little bits like this, I don't have a problem with. So I went a little heavier with the pressure just to really, you know, crisp up the whiteness on this snow on these images. And like all the Stamptember sets this year, I do not have the coordinating wafer dies, so I just fussy cut. I will say this was the easiest fussy cutting ever. You know? Gotta love it. Like the trees were so super easy. This cabin is basically a triangle. It took me all of, I think, 2 minutes to fussy cut those images. And then I grabbed a piece of white cardstock and there's this big long, you know, like snowbank type stamp. I stamped that and what will be the smoke coming out of the chimney. I stamped that onto the white cardstock with flannel, Simon's Positively Saturated ink. And then same thing, fussy cut those. And then I've kind of got my scene built here. This is right now is another A2 piece of Desert Storm cardstock. And I had laid out all my pieces, so I had a rough idea where I want to put my sentiment. And use my anti-static powder tool on the cardstock so that I can stamp the sentiment with clear embossing ink. I'm going to stamp that a couple times, make sure I got the whole sentiment stamped, and then I'm going to coat this with Simon's Detail White embossing powder and tap off the excess. Once that's tapped off, I can melt that with my heat tool. And because this is heat embossed, it is going to resist all the ink I'm going to add to this background. So after tapping off the excess embossing powder, melt that with my heat tool till everything is smooth and shiny and melted. And then for the ink blending, I'm going to use some different colors of Distress Oxide inks, because that's another thing I love. The way Distress Oxide inks look on Neenah Desert Storm cardstock. I love it. I love it. The craft background, it makes things, it just gives it like, I guess a more subtle look in a sense. Again, I love it. Neenah Desert Storm cardstock for the win. It's one of my favorites. I have back stock of this stuff. Anyway, the colors of ink I used were Salty Ocean, and then I went into Faded Jeans, and then Chipped Sapphire, which the last time I used this, I said I needed to re-ink this. Still haven't done it. I'm going to, because I use my Chipped Sapphire a lot. And then Black Soot just along the top. So I get those blended, and I'm not adding splatter. I know, but there's a method to the madness. So right now the sentiment looks a little weird. I just take my microfiber cloth, you wipe away that excess ink sitting on top of that sentiment, and because it was heat embossed, it resisted, so now it's all crisp and white again. And then I'm going to adhere everything to create my little scene, and I'm just adhering everything down with craft tacky glue. So I adhered my little snowbank, and then my little cabin, and then a little smoke coming out of the chimney there. And then I'm going to adhere all my little trees. And once I've got those adhered, my card base is also Desert Storm cardstock. It'll be a top folding A2 card. And this panel is separate. I technically could have done this all on the panel, but there was again, method to the madness. There was a reason I did this separately. One, because it's better this way, because I make a mess. And two, I needed this to be a separate panel, and you'll see why in a second. Oh, there's also little footprint stamps in this set. I loved that. I thought that was the cutest little thing, and then I was like, oh yeah, I gotta stamp that. So yeah, stamp those with the flannel inks, little footprints in the snow leading up to the front door. Chef's kiss, perfection. So card base. On the inside of the card, I'm gonna stamp another sentiment from the set using just that same intense black ink. And then I'm going to stamp those trees that I used on the front of the card with 2 different shades of green ink, which, at least on my screen, look exactly the same. But in real life, and possibly in the pictures, I didn't stop to actually really look closely. You can tell the difference. I use Simon's Pine and Field inks just to kind of tie in how I use the different shades, coloring the ones on the front. So those I stamped with acrylic blocks. I didn't stamp the first one very well, but then I just layered the second stamp on top of it. We're good to go, because when it comes to the insides of the cards, I like to add something, but it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect on the front either. Perfection is overrated. These are handmade, So stamp the trees, and then hot foiling. I have some Simon Says stamp clear acetate sheets. These are the lightweight ones. I will say lightweight is kind of the way to go. I've done similar things in the past, not necessarily like hot foiling on them, but with like heavier acetate, and it's a bear to try and like get it scored and folded over, which you'll see a little bit later. But this stuff it's not flimsy, but it's not super thick. So and it has tissue paper between. That's what you can kind of see right now. And I just trimmed a sheet in half first, so 4 1/4, and right now it's like 11 inches. So, and then I trimmed it at about 6 1/2 because I want it to be slightly taller than an A2 panel, because I need something to fold over and adhere. So right now it's about 4 1/4 by like 6 1/2 roughly. And then to actually foil onto this, I'm using this sprinkled confetti Better Press plate from Spellbinders. I bought this somewhat recently. And even though it says it's confetti, I was like, the minute I saw it, I was like, that looks like snow. I'm gonna use this as snow, and that's what I'm doing here. So Better Press plates foil in the Glimmer Hot Foil system amazingly. I've shown this in other videos. They work awesomely in the actual Better Press, but man, do they foil well. Like, love. So I had as you can see, I had my Glimmer Hot Foil machine heating up. When the light was solid, I put the plate on there, and then I press the button, let the timer go. It takes like a minute or two to fully heat up. The second light turned solid green. And then the foil I was using was Spellbinder's white opaque glimmer foil. And I'd placed the pretty side of the foil facing the plate, and then that acetate. And then I added a cardstock shim in between the two plates, ran that through my Platinum 6 machine, and voila. It foiled really well. I missed a few spots along the top. Don't care. It's fine. And I don't know if I ended up actually needing that cardstock shim. It pressed in pretty well to the point where it left like kind of little divots here and there. I'm, again, fine with it. But next time I do this, I'll probably leave off the cardstock shim. So, scoring this. I normally, like, people ask me about this. When I'm scoring my cards, I score it like so, and then the bump goes towards the inside of the card. That's technically how it is supposed to be, and I'm kind of using air quotes that you can't see, but at the same time, it doesn't often matter. With acetate, it works. One, it's actually better to score from the back. It also is better to score from the back when you've hot foiled on it, because scoring it, you're scraping off all of the foil in that spot. Again, not an issue really, because where the score line is, it doesn't matter. And then I also noticed when I was like really pressing with my Teflon bone folder to just reinforce the fold, I was like pressing the foil onto my glasswork surface. It's a little finicky just with those things, but then it stays. Like, the foil's not coming off. The acetate is fine. It was just interesting. But then I was like, I was applying quite a bit of pressure. So anyway, I've got that fold. And then on the back of my card front, I put strong adhesive. This is just some Altenew, really sticky adhesive tape. And then adhered it. My brain just like stopped as I was trying to explain this. I adhered it. You want a good strong adhesive. I don't like liquid adhesive. I've talked about this in many videos. When it comes to adhering anything like acetate, plastic, etc., liquid adhesive, I will only use it if it's like something super finicky that makes using like a tape like this really frustrating. But I prefer something like this, or depending on the case, like a foam adhesive, because liquid adhesive just isn't going to actually fully fuse, if that makes sense. So I adhered the flap, and then I adhered this to the card front. And that's why I did that card front separately, so that I could sandwich the flap of this acetate piece. And I wanted to do it like this so that you could lift it up like so and actually see the scene, because it is very busy with the snowfall. It's a heavy snowfall. So I wanted it to be able to be lifted up easily so you can actually see the sentiment, the images, everything. That was the method behind the madness. And it just gives it that extra something. And this is why I decided not to add any other embellishments, anything, because I was like, the heavy snowfall is covering all of the things. So that was the card. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. Thumbs up and comment. I appreciate it tons. That helps as well. And I'll have links to everything I used down below. And I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in supporting me over on Patreon, the link to that is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye.